I'm Alex Gupta with UATV. Today I'm speaking with Ihor Sanzharovskyi. Mr. Sanzharovskyi is the director of the Canada-Ukraine Trade and Investment Support Project. Hello, Mr. Sanzharovskyi. Welcome to UATV.
Hello.
How is the Canada-Ukraine Trade and Investment Support Project achieving its goal of lowering poverty in Ukraine by exporting goods from Ukraine to Canada and accruing income or investment from Canada to Ukraine?
Well, we are working with Ukrainian producers, so we have our 5 priority commodities selected, and we will be working with the producers of those commodities, helping them to come to Canadian market. We will help them with establishing B2Bs, finding partners in Canada. We'll help them to figure out the requirements of Canadian market, so to understand the Canadian market, and then we'll train them how to do the packaging, labeling, and other things which are needed in order to move to come to Canadian market. So in terms of investments, we are going to help Ukrainian project owners, right? So in Ukrainian projects to find Canadian investors. It's a difficult way. It's a long way, but we are going to sell, to establish, to market Ukraine in Canada.
I see. What is, as far as Ukrainian exports being exported to Canada, what are some of the types of products that are being exported? And are these big companies or small companies?
Number one commodity Ukraine is selling to Canada is soybean, all right? So, and as far as we understand, the soybean which we sell to Canada is more like organic one, which has the market in Canada. So the other type of commodities which Ukraine sells to Canada are services also, like IT services, the clothing, shoes, furniture, and other types of commodities we are selling. So the entire, the total number is not huge, but the potential is big.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the worries, concerns of Ukrainian exporters when they are offered to export to Canada?
Well, first of all, Ukrainian exporters, they have little knowledge of Canadian market. So because naturally, geographically, it's a far away, right? So, and Ukrainian producers normally would first of all look at some neighboring markets. But on the other hand, because of this situation with Russia, Russian aggression and break of economic cooperation, so of course, Ukrainian producers are forced to kind of look to other markets, and Canadian and North America are a big market, so they are looking potentially to come there. So that's not a first choice normally in most cases, but still it's a huge potential.
If I'm a Ukrainian small, medium-sized business and I want to export my product to Canada, what is the first step that they should take?
Well, first step, they need to do analysis of Canadian market. So they are going to sell something very specific. So right, so they need to know what is the demand for that kind of stuff. And number two, they need to understand the requirements, technical requirements of Canadian market for that kind of product. So certification and this kind of stuff. So then definitely they would need to have a buyer in Canada. So someone who will take care of a lot of things which need to be done for Ukrainian products to come to Canadian supermarkets or whatever. So it's a number of steps, but first of all, what is needed for Ukrainian producers is a knowledge and fluency in English, right? Because that's a requirement. And normally, the Canadian market is not empty, is not waiting for Ukrainian products. So we need to to identify our place. I mean, producers need to fight. Let's be honest. To come to shelves, to markets, and to be sold there.
On the flip side, what are some of the industry sectors Canadian investors are putting money into in Ukraine, and what are some of the risk factors, concerns they have?
Well, there is a number of projects, investment projects we are aware of, and those projects is in machine building. You've probably heard about Bombardiers trying to to locate and to start their production here in Ukraine. Also, we know that there are some investment funds or pension funds which are looking forward to have some projects in Ukraine and to invest some money into different areas like agriculture. Also, Ukraine is a natural kind of competitor for Canada, but on the other hand, Ukraine is very close to Europe, right? So, and many Canadian and American investors are looking at Ukraine as a potential location for their productions to then export to Europe. So that's kind of on the positive side. On the negative side, yeah, this kind of lack of certainty in what is going on in Ukraine and what is going to be in Ukraine in the coming future. That's a major problem. Plus, of course, we know that regulation in Ukraine is not always, doing a good work. So, and government needs to improve some area like corruption, fight corruption and improve legislation and execution of the laws in courts, etc. So those are key problems for Canadian investors.
I want to turn to the Canada-Ukraine Free Trade Agreement. What are the benefits of this agreement?
Well, first of all, when the CAFTA enters into the force, Ukrainian producers will have tariffs will go down, right? So practically immediately. So and the Ukrainians will have no kind of financial problems or will have financial incentives to export to Canada. On the other hand, Canadians, they have like there is a transition period for tariffs, for some kind of 3 to 7 years, for different big list of products, starting from from meat products, dairy products, some different types of machines, which will have like 3 to 7 years of kind of transition period before they come to zero. So in this case, Ukraine has a little bit more advantages, and hopefully our project will be useful for Ukrainian producers to utilize those advantages and to come to Canadian market over the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay, and my final question, Canada celebrating its 150th anniversary. There's obviously a strong connection between Ukraine and Canada. What is the history? Why is there this very strong ironclad connection between Ukraine and Canada?
Well, first of all, we know that Canada has a big Ukrainian diaspora, right? So those are Ukrainians who still have relatives in Ukraine, or Canadians who still have relatives in Ukraine. They still have some emotional linkages with Ukraine. They want Ukrainian TV. They are looking for some products in Canadian supermarkets produced in Ukraine. So that's something which makes our linkages stronger.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
I'm Alex Gupta with UATV. I was speaking with Ihor Sanzharovskyi. Mr. Sanzharovskyi is the director of the Canada-Ukraine Trade and Investment Support Project. You're watching UATV.